So I wanted to do at least two videos on the app that I play Minesweeper on almost exclusively nowadays, just because ideally I think Minesweeper is best played with a mouse at a desktop, but who is doing that ever anymore these days? So I always am just playing on my smartphone, which I have with me everywhere. And Minesweeper Go, this app, has the most features, the most advanced statistics and tracking, and the most types of gameplay of any Minesweeper app that I've been able to find, although admittedly I stopped looking a year or so ago when I found this app. But I really, really like it. I have no connection to the makers of this. I get no money from it or anything. I'm just a fan. So I wanted to, in this video, just kind of give a brief introduction to, very brief, to all of the great options and features that this app has. So let's just start with, a simple game so you can see how gameplay works. Down here at the bottom, you have this, what's a shovel right now. That means anywhere I click, it opens up. I think in the game it's called explore mode if the shovel is there. I call it dig mode in my head. Doesn't matter. And if you want to flag things, you can either long press on square or just tap the shovel down there and it will turn into a flag, like so. And then you can just flag stuff. And there you go. It has the handy option for if you've already flagged the number of mines that something is touching. If you just touch that 2 there, it will automatically open up the rest of the squares that it's touching. That's called chording, chording. So it has that, which is a pretty typical but very handy feature. Yada yada yada. You see how this is going. It also has chording. I'm not sure if this is on other versions of Minesweeper that I recall, but if you have a square that is only touching the number of uncovered squares that the square says, so here there's a 1 and it's only touching 1 uncovered square, you can just tap the 1 itself and it will automatically flag that mine. So that's quite handy. Unfortunately over here we got a 50-50. Hey, it wasn't the corner. So I won. So that's just kind of how gameplay works real quick. The options feature here. Obviously you have the classics, beginner, intermediate, expert. If you play on expert, you can change which way the screen is oriented. I like it not portrait, but whatever. You can customize things. This just lets you what the default is when you start the game, I believe, unless I'm mixing things up. But then you can start in explore mode. It is designed with non-flagging mode in mind, which I haven't discussed because it's not my preferred way of going about things, but it's one way that some people really like, is just not to use any flags at all. And so you can force non-flagging mode if you want, so that you don't accidentally flag something, yada yada. Options for quickly changing that control mode from explore the shovel to flagging using the volume buttons. You can customize how long a long tap has to be, and how long or how much you have to scroll to cancel one. And these are the chord settings. I use chord settings. It will chord on a tap, but if you want it to only do it on a long tap or a double tap, if you're afraid of accidentally tapping places, you can do that. Some of these miscellaneous options are only in the paid version, but and it's been a while since I bought I think it was like $3. It was maybe even 2, but I felt like it was very reasonable for such a great app. But you can have an easy start, which means that when you first click, no matter what, it will never be a mine on your first click in any normal version of Minesweeper, but easy start means that not only will it not be a mine, it will actually be a 0, so that it will at least open the 8 squares right around the first square you click on, just so you don't get just a random 1 or 4 or something on your first click and have to start guessing more and more. It just speeds up the game, finding boards that you can actually play. Recursive chord is really cool. So if you chord something because you've flagged 2 mines that the 2 is touching, and then that 2 opens up a 1, and that 1 is touching one of those mines that the 2 was touching, then it'll recursively act as if you had pressed on that 1 and chord on it and uncover any other covered mines that the 1 is touching other than the mine, if that makes sense. If not, no, sorry. And flagging chord is what I was talking about, where I don't know that this is a typical feature, but you can flag things just by touching on a number, in addition to uncovering things just by tapping on a number. Guess-free boards is pretty simple. If you hate those 50-50 options, like I just came across in that beginner game that I was showing you, you can turn this on. This is one of the options I know that you have to get the paid version for. I personally actually don't like guess-free boards generally, just because, 50-50 is part of the game. So I'm a purist, but I know a lot of people would prefer not to have those, so that's an option. And just starting game over. Question marks. I actually sent, I think it was a Facebook message to the designer on the Facebook page, and requested this. There might have also been other people who requested it, but I really like question marks if you have a really complicated situation where there might be 3 different mines in different places, and you don't want to use real flags because you get those confused when you're trying to unflag them if your setup was wrong or something. Question marks, I'm a fan of. The timer at the top, I guess if you get nervous seeing a timer, you can hide it. I like the classic timer. One of the things this app does, and I think all modern Minesweeper games do, is it doesn't time you just based on the second, but down to the 100th of a second. So classic timer means it still does that, but the timer you see just goes up 1 second at a time. I found the quickly moving numbers a little bit distracting. Removing ads happens when you buy it. Enabling sounds just doesn't seem like a good idea to me personally, but I'm sure some people love it. Yada yada, vibrations, scroll sensitivity. This stuff is mostly less interesting, but again, it really allows you to customize your own experience. If you want auto scroll to, you scroll hard to the left and the screen will keep moving a little bit for a while, you can determine exactly how much that will and won't happen and that type of stuff. Confirmations on a new game start. This is handy. I've got the Android Q beta installed, and the way to do the back button is swiping from the side of the screen inwards towards the middle, and sometimes that accidentally starts a game and it when it clicks and stuff, so it's nice to have the confirmation that you are leaving, not just if you have Android Q beta, but yeah. Cheats, I believe at least some of these are available even if you don't have the paid app, but I think some aren't. I think most interesting ones are the enable turn undo on fail. So if you were maybe just going fast and you accidentally clicked the wrong one, and you were doing really well on a big board, you might want to turn that on, and giving yourself unlimited hints, which I will get to in a second. So obviously has tons of options. A little bit more about the gameplay. Let me open an intermediate game. So in addition to the mode thing down here, the shovel or the flag that tells you what will happen when you do a normal click, there are also these magic wands and a hint light bulb thing. So the you can read more about these in the documentation. There's a pretty good help section. But if you're going along and you're like, crap, I don't know where else anything is. Where's another mine? Actually, this isn't too bad. It's not a super obvious, at least for beginners, where to go next. It's not a super difficult situation if you've been playing a long time, but if you happen to get stuck here and say, I'm not sure where or if there's a safe mine left for me, you can click the hint button. And not only will it show you in the with the green that's a safe mine or safe square, it doesn't have a mine in it. It will also show you why. The colors mean something that I can never remember, but basically it's saying if you look at this 1 and this 2, then somehow those combined will let you know that that one is not a mine. And that I think is one of the first patterns that I covered in like my second or third video. So if you forgot that, then there you go. Now you know. And the wand is when you do come to a 50-50 situation, then the wand will automatically open the square that is not a mine for you. So you might, not have your guest-free boards because you haven't paid for it or you don't always like them. But if you're in a situation where you really want to get out of a 50-50 situation, then you can use one of those. You have a limited number, and I think that it depends on, how many games you win or stuff. You get more and get bonuses for playing each day, stuff like that. I don't know how it all works, but that's handy. The trick is if you think you're in a 50-50 situation, but you're not, and you try to use that wand, then you automatically lose. So, okay, so that's what it is, sorry. You hit the wand button, it starts glowing green, and you say, I think that either this one or this one is, and it's a 50-50 shot, which it really isn't. I'm going to go with that one. Then you automatically lose, because even though it wasn't a mine, the mine was here, this one was actually safe, you weren't in a situation where you actually had to guess. So it tells you, all 3 of these green ones would have been safe to pick. A very basic pattern in the wall there, a hole in the wall, I think I called it in some of my videos. So instead of using this wand, you should have just picked one of these 3 and gone there. But so that's an interesting and I think cool feature that might be handy. Now, the other thing that really sold me on this app was the high scores. The high scores and stats that it keeps are really fantastic. So it's a little bit complicated because there's so many, but it's not too bad. You have your records, and that's what you really care about. And your fastest times, that's also what you really care about. So my fastest beginner time ever was back on May 5th, 2018. I had 2.18 seconds, etc., etc. It shows you all your fastest times, and then even gives you a cumulative best time for your best on each of the 3 different difficulties. And there's the 3 BV per second. Can't remember what that stands for, but it's basically a stat that gives you a general idea for how fast you're doing, correcting for whether you have an easy board or a harder board. So 3 BVs per second is, I might not have had my fastest time, but this beginner time, or this beginner rate of 5.7 per second was my best going through that. And these question marks will tell you more information about them. Average time, which I like, gives you your average time, obviously, and win stats, which is one of my favorite things because I'm a nerd. I love seeing not just the percentage that you win, but also I'm a fan of, what's my longest winning streak, my current streak, the totals, stuff like that. I think it's pretty interesting. You may or may not notice that the total games I've played on Expert is much, much higher than the beginner and intermediate, because that's mostly all I play. But yeah, so there's lots of great features there for all of your records. The one other thing to say is that up here in the corner it says merged, and that is because if you if you want to see just your non-flagging or flagging records, then you can do that there. The details here will tell you a lot more details about every game, not just 3BV and 3BV per second, but a whole bunch of other stats that I don't even know about, but I'm sure are very interesting. You also have a history of games you've played, and on beginner, intermediate, expert, and results, stuff like that. So very cool stats and high scores and things like that, which I find very interesting to look at and see how I'm doing and that kind of thing. The other thing I would say is the world ranking feature is very cool. It will give you your ranking in the entire world of people who are playing this on the both time front and the 3BVs per second front. And here on time, I am number 47 in the world. Go me. And you can see, what the details are. You can see my fastest times on any of them. And these eyeball things mean that means you can actually click on it and watch it. So you hit play, and wow, here I am back in 2018, getting my 57 seconds on Expert, which is like 9 seconds, I think, faster than my second best time. So it was probably a very easy board. Yada, yada, yada. We're not obviously going to watch all of that. If you really care, you can find me at number 47 on the leaderboards and watch from there. So that's cool. And then on the 3BVs per second, I'm number 48. Terrible. And also you'll see down here at the bottom, this is flagging mode and non-flagging mode. You can compare those in non-flagging mode, which again, I don't play much. I'm number 179 in the 3BVs per second, and same, nice, 179 on the time. So there you go. And sorry, I think this is running a bit long, so I will end it there. But hopefully this gives you a very quick intro to the many options, the many features of Minesweeper Go, why I think it's fantastic, and why you may or may not like it. It's available for free on both the Google Play App Store and Apple's App Store, and I'll have links in the video description. Yeah, until next time.